Time to bring you up to speed with the stories making the headlines across some select national dailies this morning. And as always, we'd like to kick things off with a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper for today. This is what it looks like. And the big story is about the back and forth, the controversy, the scandal, the drama that trailed those leaked documents talking about the Nigeria Business Forum in Qatar. And now the government of Qatar is backtracking, says that it will host the Nigeria Business Forum. So there's a lot of people online who were, having a go at the Tinubu administration, saying that, why go to a country that you're not welcome, because they obviously do not want to have those, events anymore. But apparently there's a quick turnaround and the event is going to hold this week as earlier scheduled. More on that on page 4. Nigerians, northern senators welcome ECOWAS lifting of sanctions. Hardship, NLC mobilizes for protest despite federal government's warning. Gaza truce talks resume in Doha as the bombings continue in northern Gaza, or the assault continues in northern Gaza. In the picture there, you have some residents of Lagos trooping to the Nigeria Customs Service sales point for the rice palliative, which are being sold at a fixed price of 10,000 naira per 25 kilogram of rice. We also did have some reports of people stampeding and some persons losing their lives. But in those pictures, you can see Nigerians, and kudos to the Nigeria Customs. This is phase 1. Of the food auction, and I believe they say they're going to go across the country. I think Kano is next, so let's see how that one goes. Below that picture, Nigeria reaping the benefits of reforms. These are some of the statistics from the Information and Orientation Ministry, and it says that 3.4% year-on-year GDP growth. Not much of that translates to Nigerians living better lives, but also 66% of importation going up in the fourth quarter of last year, and a 50% drop in petrol importation. 100,000, it says at the Nigeria Stock Exchange, ASI crossing 100,000 mark. What does that even mean for Nigerians at this point in time? But it's safe to say that they're sharing the metrics that suggest that Nigeria is moving in the right direction. And finally, builders seek alternatives as cement price soars. Guess what? I'm not going into any house that doesn't have cement in it. If you're using any alternative that is not cement, well, listen, no, not for me. Except if it's a wooden house, and we all know wooden houses cannot survive it here in Nigeria. But these are some of the stories. I think they're just protesting the fact that the price of cement is really at a disturbing rate right now. More on that on page 28.
All right, moving on. NLC protests. The presidency and police issue fresh warnings as 65 groups pull out, saying don't disrupt commercial activities, vehicular movements. Lagos CP tells protesters. Protests illegal, say the presidency, the CSOs, NLC, and urges the government's plot to disrupt demonstration. I mean, there is that, alleged expectations from the NLC there. You find that on page 2. Below that, we have the BDC operators, plan mergers, and fault mandatory deposit. Port terminal operator, clerk worker arrested over 1,044.29 kg of cocaine. Food smuggling, the customs still man saying that 1,500 illegal routes with drones. Or should I say, above the Punch headline there, it says Forex crisis threatens modular refineries and 25 billion naira daily crude input. The 50th anniversary, of Punch photo exhibition begins Wednesday, and governors and Elumelu Dangote make Tinubu's economic advisory panel. Now, these are some of the stories that you'd find on the Punch today.
All right, quickly, let's take a look at the front page of the This Day newspaper for today. It looks like the Ministry of Information and Orientation really wants to get that information out there about the statistics. Outcomes as WTO, the World Trade Organization, MC13 begins today in the UAE. Nationwide protest. Falana writes, federal government says NLC not in contempt of court. Insist Nigerians don't require permit to demonstrate in public interest. Public interest matters. NLC accuses government of planning mayhem against workers. And the big story on the front page of the This Day newspaper alongside that protest is economic reforms. Tinubu begins broad consultations. Shouldn't the consultations come before the reforms kick in? No, putting the cart before the horse. Set up tripartite advisory committee meets private sector leaders and governors. Once again, those information from the Ministry of Information and National Orientation, driving home the renewed hope agenda, especially in light of the current economic climate in the country.
And I cannot wait to get, our reviewers' take on this reputation of all of this in major.
Well, let's bring him in then.
Yeah, well, so this morning, as usual, every Monday we have Suleiman Obagaya, the CEO, Sky Limit Media Group editor and former deputy president of Nigerian Guild of Editors, here joining us to, review the front pages of the.
I always have an issue when Sumaya introduces you.
I just had to say
the way
it.
She says Ubagaya is just so offensive to me.
But
clearly you're not offended. You see? You're making it worse. Earlier she called Dangote Dangote. So
we have to go back to the house of pronunciation and do it right. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Let's start by another thing that has been echoing in Nigeria. That's the Qatar backtracks on host Nigeria's business forum. What is your take on all of this drama? There's been a lot when it comes to this administration's bilateral agreements with other countries where you would so something would be announced and then later on these countries would backtrack and say no, this never happened before. So it has been bringing this sort of mistrust between Nigerians and the administration, and now there is another controversy now.
Okay, talking particularly about Qatar, what it underscores is the disdain with which a lot of countries of the world hold this administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, or if you want to put it in another way, hold Nigeria at the moment. They know that Nigeria is the biggest economy in Africa. They know we have the biggest market in terms of population. Yet, they are even reluctant to hold a business forum with the president of Nigeria and leading businessmen that are going to be in his tour during the visit. You see, whereas, of course, we can quickly accuse them of snubbing us or snubbing our government, there is also the issue of, there are certain realities we need to look at. Why is it that countries of the world are no longer too interested in holding this kind of forums with us? The reality is they know that even if the forums hold back in Nigeria, if they invest in Nigeria, there are major issues they have to contend with. And these are issues that have been in the fore for quite long. Issues like multiple taxation, issues like ease of doing business. These are very major issues. Issues to do with repatriation of the proceeds of the gain they are going to make when they invest in Nigeria. They know very much that their neighboring country, Dubai, UAE, Emirates Airlines still has, I believe, hundreds of millions that the CBN has not yet repatriated to the airline. And every business entity is after making profit. They want to make profit, and if they make the profit, they are not going to use it in Nigeria. They are going to repatriate it to their country. So they know about all these facts. That is why nobody is interested in doing business with us.
Yeah, but do you credit the doggedness of the Tinubu administration for going after this FDI initiatives, because they're surely trying to trigger some sort of inflow of investment towards this country, and they're willing to do it at all cost?
Yeah, I appreciate the shuttle diplomacy being engaged by President Tinubu. Talking about FDI, of course, it's through shuttle diplomacy like the ones he is going to undertake to Qatar that the FDI has chances of getting boosted. But then we need to address it from the basics, like I was trying to explain. You have to make your country really attractive economically. investment-wise, for you to realistically expect foreigners to come into your country and invest. There are fundamental issues to do with security, to do with the way we handle the economy, corruption, so many issues. Power supply has even become a rocket science to us. I'm sure even in your home you've been spending a lot of money powering your generator, for you to have light. And with the temperature changing, hitting around 40 degrees Celsius, one needs at least a fan to be able to sleep.
So why Nigerians, people like Abdullah are pushing for the president to go after get investment, to be brought back to the country? There are experts that are saying that, just like you mentioned, that the country needs to be in better shape, and that way investors would actually just fly like bees and come into the country. So this persistence that the president is given, reaching out to all of this country, do you think it's demeaning the country's value in the eyes of these people? Because we keep seeing them go back and forth. They dangle this, okay, we might consider your agreement with our country, and then later on just backtrack.
Yeah, a kind of pace-saving measure. Really, it is demeaning for a country like Nigeria, the biggest in Africa, like I explained. It's a giant of Africa in terms of population, in terms of economy, in terms of market size, yet countries have continued to look down on us. The issues, like I tried to explain, have to do with the fundamentals, issues of corruption, and Tinubu needs to help himself, honestly. President Tinubu, sorry, let me correct myself. He needs to help himself by ensuring that all the people that have toga of corruption serving in his administration are shown the exit door as soon as possible. There are a lot of ministers with very bad reputation a lot of people that he made ministers that have very bad reputation. I don't want to mention names,
And even those that don't are proving it. I mean, we're seeing a lot of accusations and
exactly.
Coming.
So the countries of the world see all these things and they look down on us. I wish he had continued the way he started, and he really gave a very positive impression when he took over the presidency on May 29 last year. But his appointment of ministers, is so disappointing in terms of the character and personality of a lot of the appointees.
Right. Let's talk about one of the biggest stories of the day, because in 24 hours or so time, we would be experiencing one or two things. Either the NLC goes ahead with the protest, or the government succeeds in shutting it down. But the back and forth continues as the NLC mobilizes. We have some of the unions backing out of the nationwide protest. The TUC last week announced that it is not going to go ahead with this one, but the NLC is doubling down, saying, listen, all steam ahead, full steam ahead as far as this protest is concerned. What do you think this signpost, and what do you make of the government's concerns about this nationwide protest?
Okay, let me explain that with a brief story. In 2003, Malam Ibrahim Shekara became the governor of Kano State. A few months later, a private radio station was set up, Freedom Radio, which allowed citizen journalism. Citizens were allowed to ventilate their anger through their political programs. For the first time, people didn't have to go to the street to express their anger. They could simply pay a token, go on Freedom Radio and express themselves. So that helped in a great deal in removing Kano from being the most volatile state as it used to be, because of the fact that people can now easily ventilate their anger through a platform provided by a private radio station. For me, government should not shut down or disallow this protest. Let them manage the protest. Of course, the DSS is right to express concern about the fact that it could escalate given the serious tension occasioned by the hardship being experienced by Nigerians. But then, government having known that some unscrupulous individuals can simply use this opportunity, take advantage of it to maybe unleash a kind of mayhem. It can manage it by ensuring the security forces give them a kind of backing. Let the security forces, for example, in the front and the back, let there be police vehicles. What's the name of this organization? Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, and other security organizations can give them a backup to ensure there are unscrupulous elements do not take advantage.
Do you think the government generally worries about the security of the protests, or is more concerned about how it looks politically if Nigerians are protesting?
No, definitely it's more concerned about, you are very right, it's more concerned about the political implication. You see, at a time when this thing started in Mina, there were insinuations, especially in the southwest, that some northerners were up in arms against the Tinubu administration. And then I think it was repeated somewhere in maybe one or two other northern states.
Yeah,
but then before you know it, Ekiti and other Ibadan also, did the same thing. So government really has every reason to be concerned about the political implication of this thing. Yesterday, I don't know whether it is proper to mention this, but yesterday, a newspaper, Sahara Reporter specifically mentioned about the fact that the alert level has been raised in the Bila because of some activity that is noticed around the military barracks and things like that. I don't want to mention that offensive word, So you see, what all this means is that government really will not want to be seen in bad light, and this kind of things tend to showcase the government in a very bad light, in a very negative light.
It's looking like right now that the trust between the NLC, the Nigerian people, and the government is severe. To a point that now the NLC are throwing out their fear, saying that there is that fear that the government might find a way to disrupt the peaceful protests from their angle. And when you look at the government also and the security agencies, there's always that fear that those people, from those peaceful protests, that could be having those disruption plans. Yeah. So there is also that fear. How do you think this can be managed?
Yeah, for me, it's better for the government to allow the NLC to go ahead with its protests. That one can easily be managed because at least it's organized at a formal level, rather than allowing people, refusing people to the opportunity to ventilate their anger. If you disallow the people to ventilate their anger under a normal formal process like the one the NLC is proposing, there is a tendency for them to ventilate their anger in an informal way. That is the way it has started in some states. And before you know it, it will even get violent because people are really, really, really suffering in Nigeria. The government needs to come to terms with that reality.
No, at this point, I think the government do know, but then Nigerians are already, I would say their perseverance has gotten to the last, tier, and right now they want to react and show them that, okay, we notice you're not listening to us, so let's show you this way. Exactly. But then quickly, away from that, let's take a look at the builders seeking alternative as a cement price source. Now, this is not something that we should laugh about, but it's quite funny and it's scary at the same time. I think last year we had a lot of problems of buildings, collapsing, even when cement was at least a more affordable rate, but then the buildings were not even done properly. And then now there is speculations that, okay, there would be another alternative instead of cement, even after the federal government had a sit down with the producers or manufacturers and sellers of this cement. So do you think this would actually be a good line for, say, Nigeria would start finding alternative, or would it be us putting ourselves in a dire situation?
Definitely it will put us in a very dire situation, and there are a lot of implications, most of which have to do with the environment and safety as well. Like my brother Mana Abdullah said, you can't stay in a house that cement is not used in its building. You are very right, honestly. There is the issue of safety, there is the issue of environment, a whole lot of other factors. But then there is the bigger issue of the Consumer Protection Council, which probably, as we've been asking it to do, close down a very major retail outlet here in Abuja because of price the differentials in price, you know, why wouldn't the Nigerian Consumer Protection Council move against Dangote cement and other cement manufacturers that are making life very, very difficult for Nigerians? Right now, Dangote cement sells for almost 15,000 per bag, whereas Buai sells at around, I think, 11,000 or 10,000.
I mean, the same boy that announced a cut to 3,500 naira last year.
You know, he was very sincere, honestly, when they made that announcement. Unfortunately, the competitors reported him to the regulatory authorities, and somehow the regulatory authorities...
Fair business practice.
Exactly, that it is unfair. But then it is fair to Nigerians, I mean, the Nigerian consumers. So, for me, any cement manufacturer that has refused to play ball should be dealt with by the government. I like what the Minister of Housing also said, that if they don't play ball by way of helping Nigeria, they can simply open the border, even if it is for a limited period, and allow cement to...
I wouldn't threaten, I would just do it, because that's what we need. The Ministry of Information and National Orientation is doubling down to prove that the indicators are showing all green. This infographics is across all the major news dailies this morning, so we might as well just take a look at it as we wrap up. Everything is showing that we're on track, but the reality of it is that Nigerians are not feeling any positive about what is going on. What do you make of the indices that the ministry is trying to share?
Well, I appreciate what the Honorable Minister of Information, my big brother, has done by way of this advertorial in major newspapers across the country. But like you tried to explain, it makes very little sense in the sense that it doesn't translate to a better life for Nigerians. Our GDP is still less than, our GDP per capita is still less than $5,000. You know, whereas Qatar, for example, which President Tinubu is visiting on 2nd and 3rd March, has a GDP per capita of $103,000. You see, that is why no matter what efforts the government will make, unless it roots out corruption, it makes the business environment very attractive for foreign investors. It won't translate to a better life for Nigeria.
The scale of the problem far outweighs the scale of the solution.
Exactly. So government needs to embrace reality and do the right thing. All these cosmetics measures will not help us.
And as much as we appreciate the government, you know, for trying to sensitize the citizens, printing out all of these details, but we need the actual one. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
We need the actual one, because Nigerians are definitely not feeling, you know, this enthusiasm that is coming out from the ministry there, and also even from CBN with their own reports.
Exactly.
Well, due to time, of course, we have to wrap up the show here. Thank you so much, Suleiman Obagaya. After the show, you definitely have to pronounce it the right way for me, because Abdul cannot. It keeps coming for me. And of course, with that, we have to wrap up, of course, the show. Thank you so much for staying with us. Please do stick around. At the top of the hour, Emmanuel Fashemi would bring you 360 Sport. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Do have a lovely day.
And of course, my name is Abdullah Ahmed. Thank you for your time and company. Daybreak returns tomorrow live at 8. We'll see you then. Good morning.